Hello, my name is David Zvislin. I'm CAD manager here at Nolte & Associates, and today's presentation is an introduction to the pipes functionality in Civil 3D. I'm pretty ambitious on what I would like to cover today. I'm not sure I can get it all into a 1-hour presentation. I may end up splitting this off and doing a second presentation in a couple of weeks to follow this up, but we'll see how far I can get here in an hour. The syllabus I have, and this is where you can see I'm getting rather ambitious here, we're going to go through kind of what I'm seeing as a typical workflow for doing pipe layout, and more specifically working with gravity pipes. That would be storm sewer and sanitary sewer. And we're going to look at all the different components in Civil 3D. And I'm going to start off just with a brief introduction to some of the drawing and pipe settings, and then we'll also look at some of the styles available for both displaying pipes and structures and labeling both our pipes and structure objects in our drawing file. After that, we're going to look at what are called rules, which are some programs that are applied to the pipe and structures as we lay out our pipe runs or our pipe networks. Excuse me if I use the word run. That is a land desktop terminology. Civil 3D, we actually have what are called pipe networks. We don't have individual runs anymore. I can have a single storm drain network and a single sanitary network in my project. All right. Once I have rules, we'll then explore the part catalog concept, and this is all the libraries that tell Civil 3D what part shapes we have, what materials are made out of, and what our sizes are that we can then use. And then from our parts catalog, we're going to create what's called a part list, where we can filter down the part families to include only the parts that I want to use for storm drain design is what I'm going to do today. So I can filter that down to maybe only be concrete pipe, and then what are my allowable pipe sizes. So we're going to set up a couple of part lists for that today. Then we'll come in and we'll do some basic pipe layout, show you how those tools work, and then once we get it laid out, we'll show you how to put your pipe model and display it in a profile view. We'll then look at editing our pipe, both plan view, profile view, and then some of the edit commands that are available. We'll also look at some of the analysis capabilities that we have in Civil 3D, and more specifically, we're going to look at the interference functions where I can see if I have conflicts between pipes from two different networks. And then if I have time, we'll look at also a little bit more detail, some of the label functions. I will label a little bit during my profile editing because the labels are going to help me get a feel for what's going on. So we're kind of mix labels in as we work through this, and in the end I'll try to focus on that a little bit specific. So you can see I have a lot of stuff here, very ambitious about what I want to cover. So if I talk fast, I apologize. If you have questions, go ahead and type them into the question panel. I can pretty much guarantee I will not answer them during today's session, but I will send a follow-up email to anybody who attended with the questions that were asked and then any answers. All right, starting off here is the workflow I've started to develop for working with pipes in Civil 3D, and I am aware that this is much too small, or yeah, the text is too small to read in the overhead, so I've got some couple of zoom ins. So we're going to look at initially the first part of the process here, and we're going to look at the creation of our drawing file from the appropriate template. We'll look at our drawing and pipe network settings, and then we're going to create or look at some of our styles. And then as we also do that, we're going to look and develop some pipe rules, which will control allowable pipe slopes, depth of cover for pipes, and then also our structure rules. We'll look at some of those. We will then create a part list, and then what the workflow would do then is you'd actually come through this branch and you would save or update your template drawing, so the next time through you don't have to go through all these settings. You can bypass and go straight down and do your create network layout. So I kind of wanted to break this piece out and just kind of show that this is an evolutionary process as you work through this. All right, the next piece we'll look at here is this section here, and this is kind of our layout and design. And I'm going to do a couple of things today. I actually have a surface model and alignment from another drawing file, so I'm going to use data shortcuts and create references to those two objects. I will then lay out my pipe network, and I've actually got an XREF of the design already done. This is an existing project that was done years ago. I'm going to draw my pipes over the top just so I can be a little bit quicker here and snap to some of the existing manhole symbols and things like that, so you don't have to watch me lay out by station offset, but I could easily do that as well. All right, from that, I also will data reference my profile, but there are commands in Civil 3D where I can create an alignment from pipes in my network, and then from that alignment generate a profile. So if I'm doing my storm drain outfall to a detention pond, I don't have a roadway inner alignment, but I do need to show that in a profile. I can take my pipe network, create an alignment from those selected pipes, generate my profile, and then we're going to create a profile view today, and then we'll show you a couple of different techniques for getting our pipes and structures drawn over in the profile view. All right, and the final piece of the flow chart is this bottom section down here, so let me zoom in on that. And I've got two components here. We're going to look at analyze and edit the pipe network, and I'm going to focus mainly today on showing you where you can edit, what you can edit in plan view, what you can edit in profile view, and then what you can edit in the pipe and structure properties. For analysis, if I have time, I'm going to show the interference tools to show where I can see where my two different types of pipes or pipe networks interfere with each other, and then we'll add in labeling. On the analysis component, there are options beyond what I'm going to show today. In Civil 3D, Autodesk has provided a software package called HydroFlow, and you can actually export your pipe model directly to HydroFlow and then apply your rational method, generate inflows to all your different inlet structures, and it will then size your pipes. I can then import that back into my Civil 3D. If you want to use the Hasted applications or the MWH, we can export our pipe data to LandXML and then import it into whichever design application you want to use, and then we can turn around and then import that back in. And I have a word of caution on that, is that LandXML is not perfect because each of the applications treat things like inlet structures a little bit differently, so I do have to edit and make some modifications every time I import and export. So it's not quite perfect, but they are getting there. All right, so that's kind of the workflow I'm going to go through today. I'm going to put in some introductory slides before I do each demo. I'm finding it makes it a little easier for me to add markers to the video, so bear with me as we go through these. But I'm going to start off today's session. We're going to look at our drawing. I've already created it from a template, and I've got some storm drain _I DWT files on the default Nolte workstation that has most of the styles and some of these settings already established. And then just as we work through this, we'll evolve our settings. So we're going to start off and look real quick at the drawing settings and then also our pipe network settings. So bear with me as I switch over to my Civil 3D, and I've already got my drawings open just to save some time here. But let me look at my templates here, and I actually created this drawing from the PRSD _I, which is going to have a lot of the default styles in it already, so I don't have to mess with that too much here. All right, so let me go ahead and minimize that back. So I'm going to jump over to the Settings tab in the tool space here, and we're going to start off. And I really recommend you do this on every drawing. Get in the habit. You make a new drawing. The first thing you should do is go look at your drawing settings. I've had quite a few support calls in the past month where things were behaving kind of weird. You know, we had one project where we were getting volumes for 20, 30 acre site, and it was only giving us a few hundred yards of volume. And what it was is we had the wrong units set up here. I actually had it set, we were working in inches, which didn't quite make sense. So definitely want to come in, make sure your units are feet. If you're importing and exporting anything to meters from a project using feet, you do need to specify what unit you're using here, so I'll set that. And then I also have my default scale, and I'm working at 20 scale today just because it makes everything easier to see on the screen. All right. Other items I want to look at in terms of what we're doing today for laying out pipes is I want to look at the object layers that are set up in our default templates, And what you're going to see is a couple things we're going to use today is we have a pipe interference layer, so it's going to create those objects on that layer. But then we can come down, we can see the layers that it's actually going to create the pipe objects on. So this is the layer that the object is going to reside, but we're going to use the styles to control the layers that are used to display the pipe objects. So this is the layer the object physically is on, but for storm drain we're going to use the PRSD PI layer to control the line type and color of our pipe. All right, same thing, all of our labeling is going to go on a layer with the suffix of TX. And then if I scroll down, we'll see we have similar layers for our pipes, our pipe network structures, and then the pipe network structure labeling. So just kind of a heads up on where these are. So as we're creating these, why are my objects being created on the layers that they're being created on? All right, so that's all I'm really doing here. Some of the ambient settings I'm not going to worry about too much. I've got all my default sets, so we'll go ahead and take those as they are. So that's my default drawing, and again, I do that mainly to reinforce that habit of going in there and setting those. All right, so let's come down into our tool space here, and we're going to work with these three categories here. We're going to look at pipe networks, pipe, and structures. And I'm going to skip pipe and structure for settings because if I hit Edit Feature Settings, we will see that there is nothing unique for my structure settings. These are all just the drawing settings. So I'm going to cancel that. Pipe is the same way. Where we get to the settings that control our pipe layout are actually under pipe network. So let me edit those feature settings. And we'll see we've got these 5 different categories here for our pipe settings. Let me go through these fairly quickly here. So our default styles, this drawing is intended to do storm drains, so all my default settings are using the PRSD styles. You know, my default pipe style, I'm doing the storm drain line type and plan view with single wall and profile, and I've got a whole library of styles we can apply here. My default structure styles for manholes, and I have some default label styles that I wanted to apply if I do any automatic labeling. All right, so that's all my default styles. The default naming, this is where we get our values when we create a new network and pipes. So my network names, since I'm doing storm drain, are going to be SD with a counter, and you'll see I'm using a 2-digit counter value, and I'm going to start with number 1. All right, you cannot have duplicate names in the same drawing, so it will increment these for me. So I'll have SD01, SD02 for all my different networks. Same thing, I'm going to skip down to my structure names. So my manhole structures, I'm going to call SDMH dash, and then we're going to number those as well with 01, 02, 03. And then same thing with my pipes. I really haven't put any effort into this one yet. I'm just going to call them pipe dash, and then I don't even have it. I can maybe do the two-digit numbering on here and change that, and we'll do, again, starting with number 1. And these will automatically label my pipes, or not label, excuse me, applying names to my pipes and my structures as I create them. I can go back, and I will have to go back and edit them because I'm going to create some structures that I don't want to name as manholes, so I have to modify those. All right, default rules. Right now I don't have any rules set up in this drawing, so the default is standard. We'll look at rules in just a little bit. Profile labels. When we apply labels to our pipes and our structures in a profile, we need to tell it where that label is located. Mainly for the structures, if you want to label at the top of the structure or at the bottom of the structure, you will use the option here called fixed, and then you tell it where to place it relative to the structure. And you will have to come in and modify this if you want to label, say, station and rim values at the top of the structure, and you want to label inverts at the bottom of the structure. You have to come in and change this option here. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and leave that at top. Same thing for pipes. We'll go ahead and leave those fixed. Other options here, we can do them above or below the object, or at the top of the profile view, or at the bottom of the profile view. All right, so right now I'm going to leave it on fixed, and we'll come back and address that later. And we also have the same or similar settings for applying labels to pipes and structures that appear in cross sections. All right, so we'll go ahead and minimize that. So those are all the settings that we can pre-establish. We can also, if we come down in our networks, we can set these individually for commands. So say I come in and the create network, and I edit those. You see I have all the same values here. I can have overrides for the specific ones, and we'll see from my create network I also have settings that are unique to this command where I can have it automatically label them as I create my network. So maybe I do want to add my labels here. I can say we'll set, I want to automatically label the pipes. I don't want to label in profile here. Let me set that to false. I want to do structure and plan. So I can preset those, so as I create my pipe layouts, these options will be toggled on, and I can label those. All right, so that's all of our different settings. Let me jump back to the old slideshow here. And the next item I'm going to look at is the styles. We're going to look quickly at pipe styles, structure styles, and then the label styles. All right, so let me jump back into my drawing here. And the styles are under the individual categories for pipes. So let me go into pipe styles first. And the drawing I open has quite a extensive list of styles for storm drain pipes. So you can see I've got existing storm drain and proposed storm drain styles. Same thing if I come down here to my structures and look at my structure styles. Not quite as prevalent here, but I've got some for both existing and proposed. And you see I also have some where I can hide them in the profile. I've also got other styles for pipes where I can, instead of displaying the pipe, I can display the pipe section in the profile as well. So a lot of different categories here to help you manage these. Lost my train of thought here. A little button here in AutoCAD to bring up the Nolte style library on the web page here. If we come down here and look at pipe, you'll see I have it broken out by the different utility types. So I've got a category for storm drain, sanitary, and water. And if I pick on my storm drain pipe object styles, there's little thumbnails here. I guess that just shows all the names. There's little thumbnails here showing what the style looks like. So this one has all, this one here, say, let me come down and look at the one I'm actually using today. I'm using this one here, is storm drain line type plan single wall profile. So I'll pick on that. So we can see we will get this dashed center line segment to the full width of the pipe, and then only the single wall profile. All right, and then same thing for the structures. I'm using the storm drain structures. I'm going to use both the existing storm drain, which inserts our symbol with the D letter in it, and then I'm also using the proposed storm drain manhole. Currently, I don't have any styles for inlets and things like that. I've actually been applying the PRSDMH style to everything, whether it's an inlet or whether it's a manhole, because it's going to basically, it's drawing it based on the structure dimensions, the perimeter of it. So that's what it's going to do for both a manhole and also a rectangular structure. All right, so that's the different styles. So let's look at the pipe style I'm going to be using. So if I can find it on here, I'm using the storm drain line type single wall profile. So there's our line types. Let me edit that. And we're going to start in display mode here on the display tab. In plan view, we want to see the center line. We're going to color it by layer, and this is where we've assigned it to the storm drain pipe layer. But I want to use a style, and I think the default is hidden too, but I found it 20 scale, and that's kind of short. So I switched to hidden, and that's going to create that pipe, storm drain pipe format that we like to see. But then we're also going to show the outside wall, and we're going to leave that as by block or by layer. So that's going to be a continuous line. That's going to do the outside. And let me go over to the plan tab now. And this is where it is instructed on how to draw this. All right. So we are going to do our pipe center line options. We're actually applying a width to it, and we're telling it to draw it to the outer walls. So that's how we're getting that dashed line type to extend all the way to the outside of the pipe wall. All right, so that's what's going on in plan view. In profile view, let me switch my direction to profile. In profile view, we're going to show the outside pipe walls and the end lines. And I'll probably actually come back in and turn the end lines off because I've got some segments in here where I'm putting curves in, and I'm going to have multiple pipe segments between manholes, and I don't want to see the end lines. But for now, we'll leave it on because that's what I got as the default, and we'll go back later and turn that off. All right, so let me pick on the profile tab, And this is where we tell it how to draw it in profile. So not only the display tab tells you what you're going to see, but this says, you know, if I draw the end lines, draw them to the outer walls of the inner walls. Okay. Part wall sizes, we're actually going to use the dimensions out of the part library. Okay. If you don't want to do that, you can come in and put in some user-defined and say, hey, draw, irregardless of the pipe size, draw them as 12-inch pipes. Okay, or you know, you can do drawing scale or whatever. You can do specific units. Well, I want these to be drawn actual size in the profile, so I'm going to tell it to use the part dimensions. Okay, and same thing of when you want to hatch or where do you not hatch. All right, so pick OK to that. And then I'll come in and let's come back down to our manhole, and I'll look at my manhole style. And we'll see again in plan view, we're only displaying the structure. So if I go to my plan tab, we're going to see we're only using the part boundary, but we could come in here and select one of the blocks from our drawing. And I've actually got the existing storm drain. So I could apply that to this style, and it would then put this symbol on every manhole that uses this style. Well, I don't want to do that. I'm actually going to let's keep it with the outer part boundary. We can also, in our structure styles, tell it to mask the pipelines behind the structures. So if you ever get in a situation like, say, a water line or something where you're using null structures and you have gaps at every node, look at the style that you're using for the structure, and you may need to come in here and turn off this enable part masking. All right, so that's those. Let me jump back into the style library, and let me look at the label styles. So we've got all these different styles for labeling our pipes, both existing and proposed. Today I'm going to use this boat style here that has this little boat that mounts on the center line of the pipe, and it will point in the direction of flow, and it'll also have the pipe diameter in it. And then for my structure labels, find my structure label styles. I'm going to use in plan view, I'm going to use this plan with the station offset relative to my alignment. And then in the profile, we've got different profile label styles based on what information you want to see above or below the profile, or if you want to link them to the profile view. I've got a couple options here. On the icons here, if you click on this, not only does it show you what it looks like, but it shows you for the pipe network settings or the network part profile label settings that you need to put that anchor is fixed, and then you need to tell it we'll use the bottom of the structure. So it has those options in there as well. All right, so we'll come back. We'll look at label styles a little bit. Just want to kind of review that. So we've gone through now, we've got our styles in our drawing, and I'm kind of doing this in a logical order based on that flow chart. So let me go back into my PowerPoint. So the next thing we're going to look at is rules. All right, so the rules control as we lay out our pipe. How is this going to be put together? How deep are they going to be? What's my drop across manholes and things like that? All right, so we're going to look at our initial pipe rules as they apply to our initial layout, and then we can also apply the rules to update existing structures in our network model. All right, so let me come back into here, and we'll look at pipe rules first. So under my pipe category, I've got this rule set, and we'll just right-click on that, and I'm going to make a new rule set, and I'll call it SD for storm drain. And you'll see there's no rules, and what we have to do is we have to add a rule, and it's reading these rules from a DLL file in our Civil 3D folder. Okay, and we'll see it's C drive, Civil 3D, and it's called pipe network rules.dll. This is actually a VB.NET program, which they've given us the source code to, so if needed, we could potentially create our own rules or modify their rules to achieve the behavior that we want. I've played with this just a little bit. Let me know if this is something you would be interested in. It'd probably give me a week or so to figure out exactly what you want to do a little bit of testing, and then figure out how to deploy it. But we can create our own rules. Currently in their file, there's only a single category called storm sewer, and then they have these different rules we can apply. We can do cover and slope. All right, so let's look at that. So from pipe, cover, and slope, here's all the default values. I can say, yeah, I want to add that one, so I'll pick OK. And then I can come in here and I can set what my maximum cover, maximum slope, minimum cover, and minimum slope. And we can modify this rule. So now as I lay out my pipes, they're going to be between 3 and 10 feet deep. Maybe I want to constrain it just a little bit more, maybe say only go, like 8 feet deep. And I probably want to go a little bit flatter. I'm going to say like 0.2% is the minimum slope that we're allowed to use on this project. So I can set that up. All right. If I want additional rules, I can come in here and I could do maybe a length check. Maybe we've got a minimum pipe length, or excuse me, a maximum pipe length requirement. All right, so I can say length check. I'm going to say let me know anything over 500 feet. And these actually don't impact the model, but when I look at my pipe edit and I look at the tabular view, it will highlight any pipes that exceed this 500-foot value or are shorter than the 1 foot. Okay, so these options will set up, and I can also then do pipe-to-pipe match. This would be good for pipes where I'm not using a structure, but I want to match them end to end. We can say, well, match them at the invert 0. So go ahead and throw that one in there too. So I can say, match them either at the invert, crown, or center line. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at invert for now, and then we can put in a drop value if we'd like that. So I'm going to go ahead and we'll leave those rules as they are. So we'll pick OK to that. So I've got my storm drain rule set, and let me come over now to my structures. I'm going to right-click on that, create a new one, and we'll call it SD. Come into our rules. It's looking at the exact same file. There's only a single category. And then our options, you have a maximum pipe size check. All right, so I'll start with that one. So we'll pick OK. And that's going to be mainly because my structure is only a 4-foot diameter manhole. I can't put a 5-foot pipe into a 4-foot manhole. So I'm going to say, yeah, we'll go ahead and leave it at 4 foot. I'm not going to do anything. This does not impact it. It will let me apply a 10-foot diameter pipe. It will just give me a warning in my editor that the pipe size or the rule has been violated. All right, come back in here. I want to add a rule. Pipe drop across structure. Pick OK. So as we put multiple pipes into the structure, I can specify do the drop relative to the invert. I can say maybe do 0.2 of a foot drop and then a maximum drop of 3 foot. Okay, and these again will be applied as I lay my structure out. And then the last one I'm going to put in here is I want to add in a sump depth. So I can set default sump depth. I'm going to leave mine as 0. I typically don't put sumps on my structure. So that'll again help me as I lay out my pipe run. So we've now got these 2 rules. I could come back in here in my feature settings now, and I can now specify those since I have those as my default rules. There we go. So we'll put OK to that. So that's got that established. All right, next piece in the puzzle is we're going to now look at the parts. And I'm going to do this in 2 bits here. We're going to initially look at the part catalog, which is they're data files that contain all the different pipe and structure parts that we can use in Civil 3D. They're sorted by geometry. They're into what are called part families, and then you can also have different materials. And then the last item here, I'm not showing today, but there is a utility called Part Builder that you can go in and you can modify parts in the catalog, and you can add in additional dimensions. Okay, so if you're using concrete pipe and they don't have the dimension that you need, or their wall thicknesses are not quite right, you can actually go in and edit the catalogs with Part Builder. The other thing you can do with Part Builder is you can actually build custom parts, and it's not real intuitive. You have to have what I call the PhD in Part Builder. I have done a couple, so if you do need some custom parts, again, let me know, give me some lead time, and that's something I can potentially help you out with on that. All right, so that's the part catalog. Let's go ahead and take a look at that just real quick here, and I'm going to do that off the pipes pull down, and I'm actually do it through here a couple of commands. The first one I want to show is this set pipe network catalog, and again it's pointing to the Civil 3D 2009 installation. There's a pipe catalog folder, and there's a couple of catalogs that Autodesk has provided us for Civil 3D. There's an imperial and a metric catalog. All right, same thing for our structures. There's an imperial and a metric. If you create, or if we create custom catalogs, we could potentially put those out on the Q drive. We could use this browse button here and go in and select those catalogs. And I've actually, under mine, if I come back here, I've got my pipe catalogs that are under development, where I've actually added in some different structures here. But for training purposes, I'm going to stay on the default one here to make sure I've got the right ones. And of course, I got to send them back to Imperial. So I've got, since I changed that, it reset to the alphabetically the first one. So I want those both on Imperial. To see what's in those, I'm going to go to the pipes, and I'm going to go to Part Builder. And this then lets me switch between my two catalogs. All right, so I'm going to start with the pipe catalog here, and it's broken up into 4 families. I've got circular pipes, egg-shaped, elliptical, and rectangular. Well, I'm interested in circular pipes, and then this has got 3 different categories here for the different pipe materials. And what they've done is basically concrete pipe's going to have different wall thicknesses for the diameter than a PVC pipe will. Okay, we can edit these. I'm not going to show that today because, again, it's getting a little more advanced. But we can modify those. And then you can see just the different, as I expand these, what the different options are here. And let me switch over to the structure. And then the structure catalogs, they've sorted them out by inlet-outlet structures. And these are both head walls. They don't have any flared end sections just because they're real complex to model. I've seen it done, and if needed, that give me 2 weeks, and I can probably figure that out. Junction structures. These are going to be our inlets and our manholes. So you can see we have concentric, circular, or cylindrical. Those would be our manholes, and then we have rectangular, which would be our drop inlets. Okay, and then they have junction structures without frame. So a frame would be a manhole or a grate, and then without a frame, they just draw it as a cylindrical structure with no frame or grate, so to speak, on that. Okay, the ones I've been using is this group here. All right, so that is the catalog. So again, you make sure, most of the time you use the default, but you just make sure you're using the correct Imperial catalog. All right, jumping back over to the PowerPoint now. So from the part catalog, we need to create what's called a part list, and these will filter down the catalogs to say, here's the parts that we are allowed to use in our design. All right, so we can define, I'm going to use today, I'm going to pick the concrete pipe material and the cylindrical structures, and then I'm going to filter down and say for my concrete pipe, I only want to use maybe 5 or 6 different part sizes. So I can filter that down. And then the other thing we can do in our part list is we can assign what styles and rules are applied to each part. That's why I did styles and rules first. All right, so let's jump now back into Civil 3D. So we're going to come in here, and we're going to come back up now to our network and this group here called Part List. I'm going to create a list. I'm going to start on the Information tab here. And what should I call this one? How about SD for storm drain? All right, so for pipes now, we'll see that there are no pipes. So just like everything else in Civil 3D, you right-click, and I'm going to add a part family. All right, and then we just come down here, and if I pick on these, it'll give you a little thumbnail showing you what they look like. You know, so you got your different shapes. I'm going to do concrete pipe. So this is storm drain. We're only going to use concrete pipe for this model. So I'll pick OK to that. So we'll see now concrete pipe shows up, but I don't have any pipes in here. So the next thing I need to do is right-click on this, and I need to add sizes. So I can come in here, and I can either toggle this to add all of the sizes, or I have to select and pick which ones I want. All right, well, I don't want 12-inch. Our agency says we can't go any less than 15, so I'll add in 15. That will now show up to my list, and I'll add in a few more that I know I'm going to use. I need 24, and we'll add in, here I need 30. So I'll add in, maybe these are the most common pipe sizes that our local manufacturer makes, so it doesn't make sense putting in any of the other sizes. All right. Other options on here is I can now assign what styles are going to be used. All right, and you can see based on my defaults, it automatically made them storm drain line type single wall. But I can come in and say, for this first pipe here, I want it to be double wall. Okay, so I can change that one to double wall. If you want to edit all of them, you click on the icon that corresponds to the family here. So under concrete pipe, if I click that, I can now set all of these back to single wall, pick OK, and they're all set to single wall. Same thing for my rules. I can come in here and apply stormed in rule set, and I can also apply render materials. So I'm going to say, well, no, I don't have my render materials in here. I didn't put in this drawing, but I could have a concrete render material and say apply that to all these objects, so when I view it in 3D, do a render, they will look somewhat like concrete. All right, so that's my pipes. That's all I'm going to do for now. For my structures, you're always going to have a null structure, and let me assign a style to that. Well, I'm going to use the profile hidden because I don't want to see my null structures in the profile. And I've actually evolved this in some other drawings where I actually have a null structure style that I'm not showing anything. And then same thing with the rules. We'll go ahead and leave that default rule. But I'm going to add in some parts. So I'm going to add a part family. And I need a junction structure, and I need concentric cylinder. Pick OK to that. And then I'm going to add a part size. And I'm going to come in here, and I've got just those sizes, so I'm going to just do the 4-foot diameter. Okay, so I now have that, so I'm going to use that for manholes, and I'm going to add another part family, and I'm going to do rectangular structures with a rectangular frame, so it's going to look kind of like that, kind of like a drop inlet. We'll add that one in, and again, I'll add the sizes, and here I'm going to go with maybe 48, and I'm just going to keep it real simple with a 48 by 48, so 4-foot by 4-foot inlet structure. Okay, so we can add in different ones. And again, you'll see these are taking my default styles and also the rules that are going to be applied. And I think for what I'm doing right now, that's going to be enough. That's all we want to use. We can come back later and add additional part sizes or part families to our part list. But the idea is you filter it down so that way as we do our layout, that is all we're going to see. All right, so we've got now our part list. Jumping back to the PowerPoint. What we're going to do now is our pipe network layout. So we're now getting kind of the meat of the thing here, and we're going to lay it out. I'm going to set my alignments and my surfaces that I want to use. It will set rim elevations on all my structures relative to the surface I select, and then it will apply station offset labels based on the alignment. It will apply the rules as we lay it out. This is not going to be perfect just because there's some segmented pieces that that I'm doing. So we'll see some little bit odd behavior. We'll also see that we need to lay it out cognizant of the flow direction. And we can either lay out going upstream or downstream. You can actually toggle back and forth between the two. And if I remember right, Land Desktop always wanted you to go downstream. All right, and then we'll also lay out, we can either lay out both pipes and structures, we can lay out pipes only, or we can lay out structures. All right, so let me jump back into my drawing. All right, so we've now got this. I need a couple of objects, I need some surfaces. Oops, wrong field. I want data shortcuts. I need some surface models, so I'm going to bring in my existing surface. So we'll create a reference to that, and I don't want to see contours. I'm just going to show the border on that one. All right, so there's where my existing surface is. And for rims, I actually have a surface model from a corridor, so I can actually get pavement elevations from my road design. So I'm going to create a reference to that. I'll go ahead and show contours on that. So there's where that surface is going to be. And in case I want to lay some structures out on this street, I'll go ahead and data reference my RD02 top surface. So I have that one, because if I decide to lay out these inlets, I need to get the rim elevations off the models there. All right, and this is all dynamic. You can build this so they all update automatically. I'm also going to need the alignment, so I'm going to right-click and create a reference to my RD01. And it couldn't find my style, not a problem. We'll go ahead and use that style. I just had a different style name in my other drawing. I'm going to move this out of the way. And then I also need the profiles. So I'm going to create a reference to my existing. Those look good. And create a reference to my finish grade just so we can see that. And that looks fine. All right, so we've got all of the data I need to lay this out. So we're going to lay it out relative to the alignment, and then it will, based on the rules, set pipe depth and node, our structure, rim, and inverts, all based on the surface models. All right, so I'm going to actually start in. I've XREF'd a drawing here with the layout of the storm drain as opposed to doing it manually, but I could always use this button here to lay things out by station offset relative to my alignment. All right, so these transparent commands here, so we can use those. All right, so the command I'm going to use, pipes pull down, come on, very first command here, create pipe network by layout. You can also create a network from a polyline or lines and arcs, and that's only from a single object. So it'll take a single line or a single arc and make a pipe network out of it. But if you want multiple, you definitely want to do it as a polyline. All right, I don't have a polyline, so I have to do by layout here. It's going to use our default naming format, so it's going to be SD01, and we could do, you know, main, SD in site, whatever, put in some description. I need to tell it what part list I want to use, so I'm going to use that storm drain part list, and then I tell it what surface I want it to reference for elevation data. So I'm going to use the top surface from my road model, and then I also want to reference this to my alignment. And then I have my default styles. So in plan view, my structure labels, I'm going to use station offset, and then my pipes, I'm going to switch it, I'm going to use the boat. All right, and we'll pick OK to that. And that brings up then our network layout toolbar, and I'll just move that off a little bit here so we can identify it as a separate item here. Buttons along here, we can edit our network properties, which just brings up, I can change the name, modify our layout settings, again, change what styles I want to see, what part list we're using. Same thing for profile, I can preset what labels to use, and then likewise for sections, and then statistics will just show me what data I'm using here, or what data I'm referencing. I can change my surface by using this button, change my alignment with that, and then I can also switch my part list with that command there as well. All right, so layout now, I'm going to start with my cylindrical 48-inch diameter structure, and I'm going to start with, well, I messed up and didn't get 18-inch pipe here. All right, bear with me because I can drill in here and add a part size. I apologize for that. There we go. So now I've got 18, and I come back to my list, and there's my 18-inch. All right, so I'm going to lay out 18-inch pipe from that structure, and we're going to start, and we're going to do pipes and structures. And before I click on that, I want to make you aware of this button. This is where I can toggle between going upstream, so the arrow's pointing uphill, or downstream. And I'm actually going to start at the high end of my model and work my way down. So I want to make sure this is going downstream, and I'm going to use the pipe and structure option here. And I will just use the center O snap to grab the center of that circle, and it'll put in the first manhole. I've actually got curved pipe in here, so I'm going to show you how it handles curved pipe. So I'm going to go to the end point here, and it will put a structure there. I can't avoid that, but I can come back later and swap that out with my null structure. But I'm going to change my mode to curve, so I'm going to type in C for curve, and it's asking me for the end point of the curve, so it's going to make it tangent. So I'm going to snap it to the center of that structure. So I've got that piece. I'm still on a curve, so I can now pick another endpoint here. So we'll grab the endpoint there. All right, and we're still getting structures here. I'm still in curve mode, so I'll come around to the end here. And the last one here, we'll put it to center there. All right, so it will lay these out. Let me go ahead and hit enter once. All right, so I'm still in my layout command, but one of the things that it's doing is, in order to have a straight segment, curve segment, it has to put in a node at that location. What I'll do is I'll swap these out eventually with null structures. If you want it to automatically put in the null structure, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out this piece here, but I'm going to change my mode, and I'm going to do pipes only. All right, so I'm now in pipe only mode, and what we'll do is we'll zoom in on here, and notice as I put my cursor on this manhole, I get that little icon, that little yellow circle with the little lines radiating out from it. That indicates that I will connect to this structure. All right. If I do it to a pipe, I get a different icon, and you'll see I get the little two boxes with the line segments going either way. That's indicating it'll actually break this pipe where I pick it, and it'll actually, in the case if I was putting in a structure, it would insert a structure here. Since I'm putting a pipe only, I would get a null structure at that location. So I don't want to break it with a pipe. So we'll come in, I want to connect to that. So you'll see it snapped right to the center. I'm going to go back into curve mode. I do need to specify a point on the curve, so it's asking for a second point on the curve. So I'm just going to use the nearest O-snap to pick my line, and then I'll go to the end point here. And then I will do a line segment, so I'm going to do L for line, and then I will go to my next node location and hit return. And this time now, instead of getting a manhole structure, it put in a null structure, which I've got it showing it with just this little small circle based on what the style is doing. All right, but it still labels it as a manhole, so some things we'll have to clean up on that. All right, I've got a structure I need now, so I could come in here and say do a structure only, and then you'll see I get my pipe. Notice now the icon is not the broken pipe symbol indicating it'll go to the end of the pipe, whereas if I come down my pipe here, you'll see I get the broken pipe symbol. It'll actually split my pipe into two pipes and put the manhole between them. So I want to make sure I get the end of pipe symbol. Click on that. It will add my structure on the end. I can now switch back to pipe only mode, connect to my structure, and I got the wrong side. My diameter changed. We'll go back and fix that. I always forget to do that. I'm going to go to the end of this segment here, switch to curve mode, and go to the center of my structure, hit return. Okay, it does not update always. Did I not do? Yeah, it did. Have to do regen. Sometimes it doesn't update and doesn't put the line type on right, but as soon as I put a structure on the end here, it will fix my pipe curve. My boat labels don't quite work on curved pipe as well because they're actually aligning based on the start point and the end point, so they will be on the curve. So the tighter your radius, the further that boat label will be from the object itself. All right, let me finish this up here. I actually need to be using 24-inch pipe, and I'm going to do pipes only. I'm going to come off that structure, curve, to the end, line segment, to the center there. I go back, put my structure on at the end, come back to do pipes only. Actually, I need to change my diameter to 30-inch. And again, make sure I'm on pipes only. Go from there to that segment, curve to the end point there, back to line to the center, and then hit return. And we'll see that those are coming in. It's labeling them as 30-inch storm drains, so you can see that is noticeably fatter pipe than my 24. And I'm going to finish off by putting a structure on the end here, so we'll go ahead and just throw that on the end. Okay. A couple of things I can do. I want this to be an existing structure, so I can right-click on it, go to my structure properties. On the information tab, I can come in here and say, well, let's change that to the existing storm drain structure. I can also rename it here. We'll do that in a little bit. But now you'll see I've got my block with the big D in the middle of it, indicating that this is an existing drainage structure as opposed to my proposed. All right, cleaning up just a little bit. You'll see on the naming here, it did automatically label these. And you'll see that one's manhole 1. This one is manhole 2, but I don't want a manhole there. I want just a node between the straight pipe and the curved pipe. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that structure, right-click, and we can switch out what part is being used. So I'm going to say swap that part, and I want to use the null structure there. All right, so that'll change it to the null structure, but I don't want to call that manhole number 2, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to change the structure properties, and I'm going to just call it Get this to type. I'm going to call it null 01, just so I know it's my first null structure. And I can actually work my way down and edit every one of these, changing them to the number I would like them to be. I can also grab these labels, any of the labels. I can pull the grips off and relabel it, remove the labels so I can have something a little easier to read. All right, so give you kind of an idea. Actually, let me go through and swap out the rest of these nodes here. So I'm going to swap that to the null. And I think I had just one more here that I had to do. So we'll swap that to the null. And the rest of them I did as null structures. Where I messed up on my pipe diameter, I wanted, coming out of this manhole here, I actually need 24-inch pipe. You can actually grip the pipe, and you get a little grip off the end here, and you can drag it through all of the allowable pipe sizes for that structure. And it really helps to have dynamic mode on to see what it is you're picking. But if I pick there, we'll see I've updated that now, and that is, oops, wrong node. There it is. That's I dragged it to 48-inch. It gets a little tough to figure out which one I'm picking. Oh, I got lucky there and grabbed 24. So you can grip edit to change the diameter, or what I find is easier is you right-click on it, swap the part, and pick the diameter you actually want there. So I want that to be 24 as well. So I can real quickly update my pipes. In plan view, what you can edit mainly are going to be, let me get my view going here, is if I pick on this, you'll see I can grip and I can change my curve, okay, or I can change the endpoint. Okay, and you got to watch because I can actually detach this pipe from the structure. So if you have a structure there, really what you want to do is you want to pick on the structure, and I can grip edit and drag my structure to no location, and my pipes will update to fit to that. Or I can move it back, and we'll go back to the center of that node there. All right, that's lovely. I really messed this up good. We'll eyeball that one for now. There we go, got that one back on. All right, we'll leave it like that for now. That's fine. So that's how we get our pipes laid out in plan view. Well, let me look at profile view, and I can see already, boy, I'm running a little short here. I got about 7 minutes or so left here. So let me close this down, and we'll bring that back later. What I need is a profile view to work in. So let me go to profile pull down, and I'm going to create a profile view. And that looks fine. Let me just step through here. We'll go ahead and take the default heights. Make sure I'm not labeling. And we can, at this point, as you create your profile view, there's an option here where I can toggle this, and I can have it automatically draw everything for me as I create the profile view. So that's one way of adding pipes to your profile view. I'm going to turn that off, and I'm going to do it on the assumption that I already had my profile view. So we're going to come through here, and I can put my labels for my profile correctly, we'll create the view, and I'll just plop it in right there. All right, so we have our profile view without anything in it. To add objects to the profile, we saw one, I could have done it when I created the profile view. The other methods are I can come into my drawing here, I can actually select a structure or a pipe, right-click, say draw it in the profile view. Come back over to my profile, pick my view, and oh, there it is, and it'll add that structure. And you can see without me doing anything earlier, it is setting that rim and invert relative to that roadway surface, which is based on my corridor model, which is based on the profile. All right, I can add pipes doing the same thing. So I can come in and say, well, maybe take this pipe and that manhole, right-click, and draw in profile view, and come back over to my profile view, pick on my grid, and it will add those items to the view. Other method is to come into pipes, draw parts in profile view, and this time now is you select your view first. Oops, I had objects selected. Let me hit escape. I say that didn't make sense to me, so I'm going to draw in view, and now what I can do is I select the entire network, or I can type in S on the command line to draw only selected pipes. And right now, everything I've gotten here, I purposely did not draw any of my inlet structures. I can actually just pick the run and then come back over now to my profile view, select that, and it will add everything to my profile view. Okay. Because of the way I laid it out by alternating between structure mode and pipe node, you'll see I've got some big gaps in the way this laid it out. Whereas this first section, it did pretty good, with the exception on my null structures. It did treat them as a structure, and it did try to do a pipe drop across those. And I'm not sure why it did that. It should not, because I thought I set my default drop as 0, but it still appears to put a slight drop across there. All right, so let me show you now in profile what we can edit. All right, and actually, let me jump over to my PowerPoint. Okay, and I kind of messed up here because I skipped a few screens. So we did pipe network layout, so we did look at those options there. Come on. There we go. Profile view. Should have done my slide first, but we created it from our, we could create alignment from our pipe network, which is in the pipes pull down menu, but we showed you different methods of adding parts to the view. And then now in terms of editing, I've already showed you a little bit in plan view. We can grip edit, we can move things, we can right click on objects, bring up their properties. Well, now in profile view, I can't move them in the X and Y, but I can modify inverts and rims in my profile, and I'm going to do that both through grip editing and also using the pipe and structure properties. All right, we'll also look at the edit geometry command, and then we also earlier saw the swap parts, and I think I'm going to skip labeling for today, and we'll finish up showing you just real briefly the interference and the final model that I've created here. All right, so let me just do a little quick editing here. So I'm going to start now down at the bottom end, and the reason this one didn't get the right manhole rim elevation is because it is off the edge of my road surface, but I can grip edit and move this, set the rim to whatever I want. If I try to make it shorter than my pipe or go where my pipe doesn't work, you see I get that little do not or cannot, so it won't let me make it any shallower. But if I'd like it to get the rim from my existing surface, I can come in here and go into my structure properties and then go to my part property tab, and I can change the reference. So I'd say instead of referencing that top surface, reference my existing surface. So pick OK to that and pick OK to that, and as soon as we do that, it regens. Let me make sure we got that right. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right-click on it and tell it to apply a rule. And it did that because I grip edited the guy. All right, I shouldn't have grip edited it. Let me do structure properties. And I need to get rid of that surface adjustment. There we go. Now it should be right. There we go. So I had an adjustment applied to it. When I grip edited, I added that adjustment value. So now it will get the elevation from my surface, and what that adjustment value allows us to do here in our properties, we are getting the surface from, or the elevation from the surface, but we could, if I want my manhole to stick out a foot, I could add a 1 foot adjustment, or be sunk a foot, I could put a -1 and adjust my rim elevation up and down accordingly. All right, so then what I could do is I can come in and on the pipes, I can grip edit the pipes and slide my inverts around, and I can move that. You'll see my structure will keep that connection. Or if I want to set a grade on here, I can come in here and go into my pipe properties, and I can change my slope. And you kind of have to figure out what's going on here, because I can change either holding the start or the end, but you kind of have to figure out which way you're going. Well, my pipe is flowing from start to end. So if we look at the picture, this is start, this is end. So I want to hold end. So I want to hold the end. So I can say we'll make that 0.2%, pick OK, and that will update. And I can just take this other pipe, slide it down, and they will actually snap together. And then I can just work my way up the model here, change the pipe properties, change that one to 0.2, and then grip edit that one. They will snap together, and then edit the properties of that one. Wrong properties. Unfortunately, I want pipe properties, there we go, and we'll change that one to 0.2 as well. Okay. Unfortunately, with these multi-segmented pipes, there's no one command where I can say take all three of these and set them as if they were one pipe. It still interprets it as there being a structure between them. But I could go through and I need both of them and kind of grip edit and place them together. I can go into my structures. Maybe I want to set inverts. I got my 30-inch and my 24-inch here. I can go into my structure properties, and there's a connected pipe tab. Well, here's where I can edit the invert in and out. I can actually say, well, take both of these. So I hold the control key, select them both, right-click, and I can tell it to either match crowns, center lines, or inverts. So let's say in this case, match crowns, match my outlet pipe because that's the bigger of the two. I can specify a drop amount. Problem with the drop amount, though, is it applies to everything that was selected. So it's actually, if I put in the drop amount of 0.2, it'll actually drop both of these 0.2, unfortunately. But we'll see as we pick OK, then that pipe now lines up, and I can then continue my way on working up and editing this one, editing the pipe and changing that slope, 0.2 or whatever as I work my way up. Okay, on and on and on. You get that. Let me do the old Julia Child thing here, and we'll wrap this up. Let me switch to the other drawing here. So I end up with a model that looks like this. I've actually gone through in this model. I've put in both my sewer and my water, and I've actually got the water pipe drawn as just the section here just to see where it's crossing. And I've done that by going into the Profile View Properties. You can go to a Pipe Network tab, and then it's sorted by the network, so I can see from my water network I've overrode it, and I'm using a style that shows the cross-section in the profile as opposed to the pipe walls. Okay, and I've done two of them in here. But I can come in and I can go through and toggle on and off. So you can see I've turned off all the null structures, and I'm showing, I'm not showing the pipes that are in the other roadway. I'm not showing any of my inlets. Okay. And ultimately what we'll end up with, the big finish here, is, let me go to a 3D view, is where Civil 3D starts to excel versus programs like Land Desktop. This is where we start getting into what's called building information modeling. All of this data allows me to come in now and I can actually have these 3D representations of what my site and what my model looks like. Okay, let me get to something a little easier to orbit around in. Let me grab some of these structures here, and I'm going to actually take them into the object viewer. There we go. And it's just a little bit better environment for panning and zooming here. Let me actually zoom in first. Okay, and I've got materials applied to these, so all my structures are coming in looking like concrete, and we'll see that all of our pipes will show up as the different pipe types. Okay, so my water pipe is red, my sewer pipe is blue, and then my storm drain is the concrete. All right. The analytical capabilities where Civil 3D gets real nice is, let me go back to Plan View now. So I can see these is under my pipe pull down. Come back here. In Utilities, I can do what's called an interference check. All right, so I'm going to do a check between, come on cursor, there we go, my storm drain network and my sewer network. All right, and I'll just name that SD01. Oops, I already had cap locks on SD1-SS01, just so I know what they're doing. So there they are. And you can apply different interference styles. Default is it's only going to show me where they physically intersect each other. If you want to do a proximity check, maybe I want a minimum distance. I can say, okay, do that. I want to be, say, 2 feet between those. So it'll actually show me where the different networks get within 2 feet of each other. Okay, this takes a while because it has to go in and extrude each pipe out 2 feet to see if it interferes with anything, and it's going to take too long for the presentation, so I'm going to make sure that's toggled off. All right, so we'll pick OK. It will run the analysis, and it told me it found 2 interferences. So let me come back over to Prospector here in my networks, and I've got these interference checks here, and what I'll do is define them. I will just go and zoom to here. and it put this little marker here. So we can see between these two items I'm getting an interference. So what I'll do is, just to show you that, is I will go into, I'll grab some of these and then go into the object viewer here with that. And as we pan around here, and we'll see that, yeah, that might be a problem there, that pipe goes through that structure. All right, well, to fix it, I can easily come in and maybe edit this pipe. So I will say pipe properties here, and we can see, yeah, the slope is real steep here, so it's flowing from end. So I want to hold the end at my rim, and I'm going to just flatten that out and say do -2%, pick OK. As soon as that heals, you notice that the interference went away. So if I rerun it, and it will check, and it cleaned up that interference. So now if I look at these guys in my object viewer here, we'll see that my pipe is well above. So I've adjusted my storm drain structure, and we just changed where it intersected here. Instead of coming in down here, we just put it in, put a drop in the structure. So that just kind of give you an idea of one of the analytic capabilities of that. It looks like I went just a little bit over. I apologize. Thank you all for sticking with me to get through this. I think what I'll do is the next session I schedule in a couple of weeks, we will do just strictly like a half-hour on pipe labeling. And maybe show a little bit more on adding the inlet structures and things like that in here. So hopefully you saw some tools that are useful, definitely a lot more robust than what we were able to do in Land Desktop. Very powerful. There are some gotchas I didn't get a chance to cover, so hopefully we will get to those as you folks ask questions and start using this. I do post them on the CAD support page to let you know what issues are there, so just search there. If not, give me a call. Feel free to ask me any questions. So thank you for attending today's session. I hope you all were able to pick up a little bit about this, and will be able to use this in some of your work. Thank you.